Never back down, never what?
Never give up.
What
Never
the
back
hell?
down, never what?
Never give up!
I've been playing this game for 18 hours straight and would have gone to Diamond day one, but no! I was given false hope. Dolly Parton only works 9 to 5, but I work 5 to 11 a.m. Hey guys, welcome to what I guarantee is the worst ELO players you will ever encounter. You'll see inters, you'll see troll picks, you'll see people first time champions and ranked, and finally you'll see mental boom players in their natural habitat. Players in this ELO have bigger egos than Diamond players, while their ability to play the game is no different than a Gold player. Today I'm going to show you how to survive through Emerald and highlight all the mistakes I consistently see. I was so determined to get the Diamond and make a video for you guys that I didn't work out for 3 days, and when I finally got it, I went to the gym at 3 a.m. and finally exercised. First, let me explain how Riot seemed determined to keep me within this particular rank. On this account in particular, I reached Diamond last split, but I ended up in Plat 2 because the MMR was absolutely horrendous on this account and my games were inted more times than I can count. If you're confused on what I mean, check out my video on being hard stuck. After my placement games in split 2, I started my journey from Plat 4, but this isn't what made it terrible. When I hit Emerald 3 out of nowhere, my LP gain suddenly decreased from 27 to 29 per win to 20 per win. Well, Dylan, maybe it's because when you lose more games, your win percentage decreases and therefore the amount of ELO you gain should reflect this. Now that's what you would think. I had a 60% win rate and went on huge winning streaks, but right after I hit Emerald 3, Riot decided to limit the amount of LP I'm able to gain per win, even though I'm playing the exact same MMR lobbies. My rank would be Emerald 1, but my MMR is stuck in Emerald 4, where you can obviously see me hyper carrying the majority of these games. It doesn't make any sense. This is disgusting effort from Riot to keep you stuck in your ELO will drive you insane with this LP system. I'm confident this can't be a coincidence, but every time I won 3 games in a row, the 4th game was filled with the most troll teammates I've ever seen. I even gave dodging a shot because this happened 5 times, but it did not make a difference at all. The 3rd game was always incredibly hard, and then the 4th was a guaranteed loss. I'm not implying that you can't experience win streaks of more than 3 games because my personal record is a 15-game win streak, but this felt suspicious to me. My opponents in these particular games were even better players, but my teammates performed like actual bots and ran it down every time. My theory is that since this account ended up in Plat 2 instead of Diamond at the end of the season, Riot's intentionally hindering your process when you approach this final ring, making it even more difficult for you to climb. For example, on my Dillerus account, that account ended up Plat 4 when I first made it, but when I tried to climb back the following year, it took me 200 games to climb because I literally was winning plus 15 and losing negative 22 before the LP update. After the update, I was winning plus 18 when the minimum from plus 15 LP was supposed to be around 22. I don't know how this was even possible. The math ain't mathing up for me, I'll tell you that. This is why I recommend creating a new Smurf account, because playing against these odds is extremely mentally draining and time consuming. On the account I just got a Diamond with, I was only winning between 20 and 22 LP and losing between negative 27 and even 30 at a 57% win rate. I was able to climb to Emerald 1 at a 67 LP and needed 2 more games before I could finally go to sleep. However, this is where Riot gets you. They fill you with false hope and try to break you mentally. I played 26 games that day and won 14 games and lost 12, yet started less than what I started with before. Initially, I won 12 games and lost only 4 games, allowing me to smooth sail through Emerald, but then out of nowhere, I then proceeded to get stuck in loser's queue and lose 8 games while only winning 2. Subsequently, I simply wasn't in the mood to play anymore, so I finally went to sleep, knowing that I wasted a whole day for nothing. I literally was back where I started 18 hours earlier. The only reason I'm going to try to climb a challenger on my Dillerus account this year is because of the funny name. Well, to say the least, I'm telling you all this because I bet you that you personally had these experiences in the past, and I want to let you know that sometimes it's okay to not be happy playing League. So put on some sad boy EDM music and grind through it. Anyway, let me point out all the mistakes I noticed while climbing through Emerald and share how I try my best to combat each problem. Mistake number 1. Players don't know how to play when they're behind. I was forced to play ADC and top because there's the lanes that consistently entered no matter what position I played. When I switched to playing top, my bot lane would feed, and when I played ADC, my top lane would feed. When you keep giving your opponents kills, the damage is already done, and saving it sometimes is just a miracle at the end. For this reason, this is why I dominate top lane with a 70% win rate across 37 games. Not to paint a target on my back, but I personally find top laners not mechanically gifted as I am, so if I'm able to outplay them twice and get 2 kills, they would never win lane against me and the lane is effectively over. In these elos where you get the top lane treatment and play a 1v1 in the laning phase, you will never beat me unless I'm heavily counterpicked. Occasionally, I switch to jungle and mid when I get exhausted of each role, but the same problem reoccurred, especially in my bot lane. Maybe it's all just bad luck on my end, but if I can ensure that my bot lane doesn't feed, I will suffer through every game and personally play ADC myself. I do want to warn you that most of the time you're filled with extremely elo inflated supports that shouldn't be in the lobby in the first place, so the best thing you really can do is farm and not die. They're holding onto their abilities for next game and honestly not doing anything. All you can really do is pray that you have a half decent jungler and that the enemy bot lane is worse. Since players don't know how to end the game quickly, I'll eventually scale and carry the late game. Mistake number 2. Autopiloting Snowballing Games. The majority of players that find an emerald are autopiloting their games, expecting to be carried to diamond. They're rushing tank killer items like black cleaver into teams with 0 tanks, or they're not paying attention to objective timers. When these objectives are up, they are farming on the other side of the map or taking jungle camps. When you're playing like this, you're not contributing to your team in any manner and letting the enemy get gold leads and objective buffs for 0 reason. These are the KDA players who type in chat and mention your KDA when they end up doing less damage than support at the end of the game. I cannot fathom how many top laners do this and expect to be carried by just engaging in one team fight and hoping they win the fight without positioning in advance or setting up vision control. When a single player recklessly dives in and gets eliminated, it creates a tough situation for the rest of the team to handle and increases the likelihood of losing the subsequent fight. How many times can you count when your teammate randomly dies before dragon or baron spawns by walking somewhere they have no reason to be at or check alone? Countless times for me at least. Don't get baited by your teammates, and if you know you're gonna lose a fight, don't even take it. However, don't be a KDA player and spectate fights while your team is expecting your damage. You're essentially baiting your teammate and will end up tilting them. Mistake number 3, KSing kills. If you know you don't know how to carry your games, don't take the kills and give them to players who have a higher chance of winning. Again, since ADC is an extremely strong role right now, I'm playing this boring and unbearable role to climb because you have the potential to swing fights and carry. My teammates usually aren't peeling me, so I have to position extra cautiously. These are moments where the only reason we win the fight is because the enemy team is tunnel visioning on me while ignoring my team completely, which allows us to wipe out the other team. The reality is that you will have to be the sacrifice or punching bag for your team, even though the tank should be doing this. Playing ADC, you're expected to be carrying your games and playing well, but if you generally don't know how to keep a lead, then just let your team do it while you still contribute in the background. I personally love being carried because the pressure and stress is off my shoulders and it gives my brain a game to relax. Don't be selfish and give the kills. If you're truly playing rank to climb, then you have to be a team player and understand that game doesn't revolve around you. I've seen countless players who think the game does, and if they're not the one carrying, then they start underperforming and start inting because they can't handle this fact. League is a team game, and if you're the liability in every game, you're going to be hard stuck forever. Mistake number 4, refusing to play slow. I've noticed that honestly nobody knows what they're doing in Emerald after the laning phase. Everyone is wandering around looking for a fight constantly when no objectives are up and minions are not present. People start A-ramming mid for 0 reason, and players start stealing the jungler's camp when he or she is trying to farm when they're bored. Sometimes there isn't anything better to do than to farm a quick minion wave and then to obtain more vision control. Unless the enemy team has players who've inted multiple times and you're able to snowball, you have to play the game slow because nobody's communicating well enough to strategically make some plays. Sometimes players just run around and int random lanes because they're refusing to play the slow game. Ironically, I see this happen the most when players play scaling champions, and I can't wrap my mind around where the logic goes. Mistake number 5, not know how to play weak side. There are games where I'm counterplay playing top and my jungler refuses to help or apply pressure to my lane. Even though I'm frustrated at this fact, I would never be feeding my laner any more than 2 kills max, which includes being dope. Even if I'm down 30 CS and my jungler is doing absolutely nothing around the map, I'm playing consistently as I possibly can, hoping that we somehow win fights later on in the game or when they throw their lead. Even though mentally I could be tilted out of my mind, my ability to play the game doesn't change where I'm ever the liability on my team. I could care less if my team was the most toxic team in the world and yelling slurs at each other, but as long as we win the game, that's all that matters. If I lose the game, I try again and pray that the queues will be better instead of inting my games. Try to keep this mentality and persevere through it, and if you can't, just get it off and try again another day. Mistake number 6, not matching your laner. For some reason, players are refusing to match their lanes by randomly walking around the map. I don't understand how this is a difficult concept because if you allow the enemy team to farm freely and push towers, you're missing waves for 0 reason and you're forced to walk back, which wastes so much time. When I'm playing, I'm having to match these players rather than the top lane or bot lane because my team isn't doing anything. It's incredibly frustrating to play because if they're extremely fed, you're playing a squishy ADC into assassins or tanks that dive you under tower. While this is happening, my teammates are edging to force a losing fight and get further behind. Please just match your laner, and in theory, if you don't feed your laner hard, you will always be able to match them because you can simply clear the waves and not try to fight them. If the enemy team keeps walking up and trying to attack your turret, this is where in theory, junglers should be ganking this overextension. Realistically, it does not happen, especially playing top, so it really does come down to you playing extremely boring and safe encounter matchups. Again, you don't always have to be the hero of every game. Mistake number 7, I have flash, don't worry. Some players think it's okay to play confident and overextend simply because they have flash available. When you end up getting jumped and are forced to use your flash, you're simply wasted the most important ability in League because of your ego. Surrender spells provide you with offensive and defensive potential and change fights completely. League is all positioning, which makes flash so critical, and if you're suddenly down the spell for 0 reason, you're hitting your team with the ability to make better plays. Mistake number 8, not knowing how to snowball. Players in Emerald are not using their gold advantage in any way to force objectives or easy plays, but instead slowly playing the game on autopilot and allowing the enemy team to catch up. This is kind of like playing chess. In a given position, if you're able to spot a tactic immediately, you can win the game on the spot because your opponent can't defend against it. If you allow your opponent to breathe even for 1 turn, let's say from a main 1, your opponent can defend this on his turn and now your ability is gone. Now this applies to League. If you're autopiloting A-revving into mid and you suddenly get caught and give over 700 gold bounty, the game isn't necessarily lost, but you just gave your opponent a lifeline from being completely lost to having a chance. Now imagine you and your teammates keep taking fights and trading 1-for-1 kills with shutdowns. While you're doing this, even though you're getting gold for your own team, you're also giving your enemy who is deprived of gold a new income and will slowly lose your advantage. This concept is why most players don't know how to snowball. If you're completely dominating your lane, you want to give the least amount of kills even if you think you can 1v2. That's why small chance of losing will slowly help the other team immensely when they get your big shutdown. In reality, unless you're the one with the kills, you can help control your fed teammates from making dumb plays and throwing away their lead. These are the players with extremely toxic egos and they'll start comparing your KDA to theirs, but at the end, they're the one throwing the game. They live in their own world of delusion and they can't even see their own mistakes. They'll refuse to listen to your pings and blame you when they die, but that's just how the solo queue experience goes. If you want to climb ranked, you have to endure and treat them like children for the time being, but after the game ends, I don't endorse flaming, but sometimes your anger needs to get out and it just doesn't matter anymore, so you do you. I mean, League isn't one of the most toxic games for no reason. I'm just being realistic here. Anyway, that was my analysis on how to climb Emerald and play through your atrocious teammates. These teammates are ego-filled and mechanically talented to a gold player while thinking they're considered high elo players. Don't let them get to your head and just report and mute them. I wake up every day to like 3 notifications the player has been punished and it's fantastic. If you think about it, you're just cleaning up the rank experience for yourself while you climb and remove these players. If you want more analysis or tips to climb the diamond, I'm only providing the things you need to climb while keeping it real. You should totally subscribe to my channel and have an astronomical day, guys.